books behind you. From the True Dharma Eye collection, Jingqing's Buddhadharma at the New Year. The main case. Jingqing Daofu was asked by a monk, "Is there Buddhadharma at the beginning of the year?" Jingqing said, "Yes." The monk said, "What is the Buddhadharma at the beginning of the year?" Jingqing said, "The beginning of the year is auspicious. The myriad things are all new." The monk said, "Thank you for your answer." And Jingqing said, "I lost virtue today." Later, another monk asked Zen master Mingjiao, "Is there Buddhadharma at the beginning of the new year?" Mingjiao said, "No." The monk said, "Every year is a good year. Every day is a good day. How is it not in the new year?" Mingjiao said, "When old man Zhang drinks wine, old man Li gets drunk." The monk said, "Old, old, big, big, a dragon head, a snake tail." Mingjiao said, "I lost virtue today." Commentary. Since both monks asked, "Is there Buddhadharma at the beginning of the new year?" why does Jingqing said yes and Mingjiao say no? If you go to the words and phrases to see into this, you will never get it. If, however, you are free of mind and objects and have attained complete liberation, you will certainly have a life apart from yes and no. Tell me, what is life apart of yes and no? Before the new year, the cold moon illuminates the endless mountain. After the new year, the sweet fragrance of apple blossoms fill the valley. On New Year's Day itself, there is no before or after, just a vast and boundless sky, free of all hindrance. It is from here that both masters answer. If I had been there when the monk said, "Thank you for your answer," I would have hit him with my stick and said, "Now I have gained virtue." When the other monk said, "A dragon head, a snake tail," I would have driven him out with a shout and said, "Now I have gained virtue." The capping verse. One raises up, the other pushes it down. In their loss of virtue, both are completely free. Happy New Year to all of us. During the holiday period, over the holidays, Yogan and I took the advantage of the break, the time off, of the quiet, and devoted much needed time to house maintenance, spackling, painting, plumbing, other repairs. And as we were doing that, I was thinking about maintenance, about this kind of work, in terms of wholesome Dharma teachings, or how regular upkeep offer us wonderful, wholesome Dharma teachings. And how is it usually seen by us as a chore or a burden rather than a guide? Maintenance is a wonderful teacher of impermanence. It shows us that regardless of how sturdy and solid things may be, or how solid we built them, essentially, everything has the nature, or is of the nature, to deteriorate and fall apart. And regardless of how much effort we put into preservation, it will still disintegrate. it also teaches us that although things do fall apart, everything falls apart, we can still express deep appreciation by engaging in care. There is still that possibility, that option, knowing very well that everything falls apart. Whether it's our body, a house, a job, a relationship, our families, people we love, people we don't love. Right? All of it falls apart, and we are clearly aware of it. Obviously, it's indisputable. And we're offered the choice to get bogged down by it or to care deeply. And the difference between the two lies in how we understand impermanence and in the way in which we engage it. The inviolable law of impermanence means that within the endless cycle of cause and effect, there is continuous disintegration and continuous renewal. In fact, without disintegration, there is no renewal. Without renewal, there is no disintegration. Two aspects of one reality. No decay, no growth. No growth, no decay. And our tendency is to lament the decay or try to hold on to the growth. But by doing so, we avoid engaging the fullness of reality, or avoid appreciating life as it is. And we miss precious opportunity to be fully alive. Time swiftly passes by because everything disintegrates. There is nothing we can do about that. There's nothing we need to do about that. How do we meet disintegration? And I think that entering a new year offers us such an opportunity. Right? On one level, it is meaningless since constancy has no beginning and no end. But on another level, a new year, first day, the first, is a great reminder of the way life constantly renews itself. A reminder to shed the extras we have been accumulating and enter the new without holding on to the stale, without holding on to what was. It's a practice. Unfortunately, it doesn't come easy to us. We actually have to stop and look and examine the way we usually meet opportunities, new opportunities. And how much all do we bring into the new? Or how do we see the new? If at all. This koan, this is the teacher, the main teacher, that is Jingqing, 9th century Chinese Zen master, disciple of Zhefeng. And this koan, a monk asked him, is the Buddhadharma at the beginning of the year? And Jingqing said yes. And the monk said, well, what is the Buddhadharma at the beginning of the year? And Jingqing says, the beginning of the year is auspicious. The myriad things are all new. And the monk is asking about the entry point to realizing the Buddhadharma. And Jingqing is saying that the beginning of the year is a great opportunity for awakening to the freshness of reality, to what is brand new, has never, ever been this way. So one is asking about the Buddhadharma, and the other one is saying, yeah, it's a great entry point to the freshness of reality. Are they referring to the same thing? Once Zen Master Daru went to visit Master Shitu and asked him, what is the fundamental meaning of the Buddhadharma? And Shitu said, not to attain, not to know. Daru said, is there some turning point in going beyond or not? And Shitu said, the vast sky does not hinder the white clouds from flying. What is the Buddhadharma? Not attaining, not knowing. As in the title of Suzuki's book, Zen Mind Beginner's Mind. Not attaining, not knowing, back to the beginning, over and over and over again. What do we know? What do we do with what we know? I mentioned that to Shojin last week from Suzuki, that says that in the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, and the expert's mind there are few. And Shoji said, you're only expert in the past. Do you remember that? And he's a scientist. His work is to investigate. We're only expert in the past, right? We only know what we need to discard of. What do we know about this? What do we know about stepping into a fresh, new experience? What do we do with what we know? Right? Now, practice is a process of embodying anything we practice, right? We practice. We take on the information, we take on the guidance, the details, and then we swallow them whole. We take them in, and then we forget them. Because if we hold on to them, they become a hindrance. They actually prevent us from practicing what it is that we are trying to learn. So we learn and forget. Learn and forget, as in the words of Osensei. You learn the techniques and you forget them. Because if you don't forget them, they get in your way. When you need to practice, you can't. When you need to move, you're tied up by what you know. Or by what you think you know. Or by the one who is holding on to what is known. So to learn and to let go, and to open up and embrace brand new. So all the old patterns, all the stale that is playing in the background, of course it keeps playing in the background, so it doesn't go anywhere. But it doesn't hinder the fresh and the new. Although there's definitely a sense of being chained by the old. Or not being able to see the fresh and the new because of the voices in the head. Judgments happens often, common. Does it really prevent us, is the question. No, the mind that does not know is the same as the sky that does not hinder the white clouds from flying. That's the mind that does not know. It does not know how to hinder because it doesn't know. It is the mind that is not concerned when concern is born. It is the mind that can realize and see old patterns, judgments, heavy thoughts, and yet allow them to float in the vast and empty sky. It's the mind that sees beyond while being aware of every detail of what's happening. the mind that knows when thoughts arise and vanish, to not get caught up, to not follow. Or when we experience stormy emotions, to allow that to be as well. Not tweak, not change, not reject, and not follow. It is the mind of bearing witness to everything without judgments, distinctions, discrimination. When all things are realized as coming and going within the vast and empty sky, where do we find the hindrances? In other words, in order to define something as a hindrance, where do we need to go? Right? How much do we need to contract from the vast and empty sky into the tiny aspect of the experience we're having, or the one who's having the experience? Right? And then in there, in that, limit ourselves. And the experience does feel limiting when we do that. No, we chant, no path, no wisdom, and no gain. No gain, thus bodhisattva live prajna paramita, with no hindrance in mind. No hindrance, therefore no fear. Far beyond all such delusion, nirvana is already here. No hindrance in mind. Where do you find the hindrance? And realizing and cultivating this mind is actually the heart of our practice. Right? So what we cultivate during Zazen is we work through the fear of pushing the conceptual boundaries further and further. You know, it's for quite a while, it can be a terrifying experience to sit and feel as if we are losing the boundaries of the self. I remember many times, when I started to sit, many times experiencing this sense of no ground, or groundless being. Nothing to step on, no solid place to put my foot. And it will be so terrifying that I will look for something to think about. Just not to experience this. And it would happen over and over and over again. And it took a long time to, little by little, get comfortable in space. Because essentially that's what it feels like, floating in space. Having nothing to hold on to, nothing to stand on, not knowing who we are. How could it not be terrifying, right? Of course it is terrifying. So the analogy of stepping out of the house, coming back in, stepping out, going down to the porch maybe, going then 3-4 steps down to the backyard, running back inside, closing the doors, closing the windows, and then stepping further and further, going to the gate, going to the fence, going beyond the fence, little by little to a point of looking back and not seeing the house anymore. Not seeing you anymore. Not knowing. But not as a thought, as an experience. I really don't know, and it's okay. And the freedom of not knowing, of course, comes with the freedom of not needing to defend anything. If I don't know, what will I be defending? Who will I be defending? What do I need to protect? What am I upset about? What's really bothering me? To push the boundaries, to go beyond the comfort we derive from what we know, what we imagine, what we think, or from our emotional interpretations. Also means to go beyond the boundaries of clock time, how we perceive time. We're accustomed to seeing ourselves as entities moving along a timeline with segments of hours, days, months, years, as if we travel within time. But are we open to the possibility that this may be just an optical illusion? Maybe, just maybe, what I see as me and what I see as time are not true. Maybe they only seem separated. In the fascicle titled Uji, Being Time, Dogen wrote about time in relation to the two most fundamental teachings of Buddhism: anatta, which means no fixed self, and anicca, which means impermanence. He said, since we human beings are continually arranging the bits and pieces of what we experience in order to fashion a whole universe, we must take care to look upon this welter of living beings and physical objects as sometime things. Things do not go about hindering each other's existence any more than moments of time get in each other's way. As a consequence, the intention to train, the rising of bodhicitta, arises at the same time in different beings, and this same intention may also arise at different times. And the same applies to training and practice, as well as to realizing the way. In a similar manner, we are continually arranging bits and pieces of what we experience in order to fashion them into what we call a self, which we treat as myself. This is the same as the principle of we ourselves are just for the time. So take a moment to look around and consider whether there is any form of being, that is any world, that does or does not find expression at this very moment of time. Is there anything that you can think of that is not being continually expressed in different ways? Is there anything that is disconnected from anything else? At any given moment, we call it 1 o'clock, we call it 2 o'clock, but what is it? We say we begin Zazen at 8. We have to say it, because otherwise nobody's going to show up, right? We show up at different times. So we do have to use this. But where is 8 o'clock and where is the one who is beginning something at 8? And what's the difference between these two? What is 8? And what is the one who perceives 8 as the beginning of something? So we have to go beyond the conceptual usage of, or the usage of time, right, as something that we can call it paya, right, because it is useful, we have to do it. But we have to go beyond, I am beginning Zazen at 8, or I have to be at work at 9. What if I'm late? What if I'm early? What if? Right? The worries come from putting something extra there. But is it possible that is continual, with no beginning and no end? And is it possible that if time is continuous and I am time, I am also continuous with no beginning and no end? And he says, the phrase for the time being, implies that time in its totality is what existence is, and that existence in all its occurrences is what time is. And because it is a time, its time will have a wondrous luminosity, a point that we will be studying and learning about during the present 24 hours. And because it is time, it will be one with and the same as the present 24 hours of the day. One with and the same as the 24 hours of the day. So while we treat them as segments, we have to go beyond segmentation. While we see ourselves as having to be at work at 9, we have to see ourselves beyond the one who is arriving to work at 9. Which means there's nothing to discard. We don't have to pretend that there's no usage or need for 24 hours or for counting the hours. But what he's saying is that we're not traveling within time, since we are time itself. How can it travel within itself? How does the eye see itself? How does the ear see itself, or hear itself? How does the knife cut itself? There are many ways to say that. And it's radical. It's radical as an experience. Because it goes against everything that we can imagine. Everything we grew up with, everything we were taught. How do we use time in a way that does not hinder us? A monk once asked Joshu, how can I practice 24 hours a day? And Joshu said, do not be used by the 24 hours of the day. How do I practice all the time? Do not let time use you. Use time, but do not be used by time. Well, use time as upaya. Well, it's skillful. It makes sense. Use it. But don't get trapped by it. Don't see that as moving from one point to another and you have to be there as it moves. It moves in all directions, all at once. From past to future, from future to past. From right to left, from left to right, up, down. All directions. Because it includes everything. Because everything is interconnected. When we create 24 segments, call it a day, right? Or 12 months, call it a year. And then a separate existence that needs to function in these segments. We can very quickly become slaves of time and feel as if we are running out of it. So we fluctuate between wanting to hold on to what feels good, or good times, and to speed through and discard what feels like rough times. And as long as we don't realize time and being as one, time sometimes feels like an ally, or sometimes like a foe, depending on circumstances. But in either case, how time feels has to do with how I see myself, or whether I see myself as separated from time. So to not be used by the 24 hours of the day, as Joshi says, would mean to merge and ride the continuum rather than create an idea of separate entity that is moving through it. To see it and to experience it as a continuous flow, no beginning, no end. So back to Uji. Dogen says, time has the virtue of continuity. It continuously flows from the today, from what we call today, what we're talking about as tomorrow. So from today to tomorrow, from today to yesterday, from yesterday to today. And it flows from today to today and from tomorrow to tomorrow. You get the point. Because continuous flow is a function of time. Past and present time do not pile up on top of each other, nor do they form an accumulative line. Now just think about this in terms of understanding that or embodying that, in terms of how we see each other, how we see circumstances. Right? This has been happening for 5 years. I've had enough of that. I don't want this anymore. I've had enough. I've had enough comes from things have been piling up, one on top of another. And I want to discard that. But where does it pile up? Or where do I have to go? Where does my attention has to go in order to come up with a statement that says, it's a lot? What does it mean, it's a lot? Where does it, what is the ground that allows it to be piled up? If it is vast and empty sky, what do we do with it? And just to say vast and empty sky, just to realize and recognize that we are functioning within the vast and empty sky, takes care of everything. Everything that worries us right now, gone. Not gone in terms of experience, but gone in terms of accumulation. Right? Because there's plenty of space for everything. And there's plenty of space for everything to coexist without bumping into one another. And so then it says, so do not be upset over what is not, and do not be pressured by what is. Do not be upset over what is not, and do not be pressured by what is. In other words, total freedom. The Buddhadharma, or as we may say, the teachings of anatta, no fixed self, and anicca, impermanence, are clearly seen at any given moment. We don't need the beginning of the year to see that. But the beginning of a year can be an auspicious occasion to realize it, as Jingqing said to the monk. So the monk heard that and said, thank you for your answer. And Jingqing said, I lost virtue today. Why would he say that? Right? The answer was truthful. And the monk's appreciation seems genuine. Where is the error? Later, another monk asked Zen Master Mingjiao, is there Buddhadharma at the beginning of the year? Mingjiao said no. And the monk said, every year is a good year. Every day is a good day. How is it not in the new year? And Mingjiao said, when old man Zhang drinks wine, old man Li gets drunk. The monk replied by saying, old, big, a dragon head, a snake tail. And Mingjiao said, I lost virtue today. So both Jingqing and Mingjiao expressed the same answer, the same way to conclude short dialogue. I lost virtue today. Jingqing is expressing the absolute from the relative realm. Mingjiao is expressing the relative from the absolute realm. But form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. So to say that there is Buddhadharma at the beginning of the new year is correct, and to say that there is no Buddhadharma at the beginning of the year is also correct. So why did they both say they lost virtue by giving the correct answer? It is correct. But to bring it up is to be thousands and thousands of miles away from it. As we say, gouging a wound in a healthy flesh, raising waves when there is no wind. This is what is called falling into the secondary. To ask about it is to be already far away from it. Conceptual, experiential, at that moment. Not that it's not available. It's just that the attention goes somewhere else. The attention goes to asking a question and waiting for an answer, and then pondering the answer, and then asking another question, or maybe saying thank you. And all that happens within the vast and empty sky, but the attention contracts to a conversation rather than to an experience. Gouging a wound in a healthy flesh. That's what that is. Now, the amazing thing about what Dogen is saying, or what the teachings are saying, is that we are here for a brief moment, and that is true. And we are here for eternity, and that is also true. Because a brief moment is eternity. And eternity is expressed and experienced in this brief moment of our lifetime. So what can we hold on to? What do we need to hold on to? Now, Jingqing was a disciple of Jefeng, and once Jefeng, while he was still studying with him, Jefeng said in a talk, so majestic, so subtle. And Jingqing came forward and said, well, what is it that's so majestic and so subtle? And Jefeng said, what? What? Right? Missed the point. What is it? What? Come again? A wonderful answer. A wonderful way to deal with it. Go back. Go back. Look again. But I can't see it. Okay. Enter from there. Enter from I cannot see it. Dogen commented on this exchange in his koan, and said that he disagrees with both teachers. He says, although Jingqing and Mingjiao speak of one loss, they do not yet see one gain. Suppose somebody were to ask me, is there Buddhadharma at the beginning of the year or not? I would say there is. Suppose the monk who is asking a question would ask, what is the Buddhadharma at the beginning of the new year? I would say to this person, may each and every body, whether staying still or standing up, have 10,000 blessings. Suppose the monk said, in that case, in accordance with this saying, I will practice. Then I would say to him or her, Today I have advantage after advantage. Now please practice. Advantage after advantage. Every moment. Grand opportunity to appreciate life as it is. To have the advantage. To have the opportunity. To take it all in. To see interconnectedness of all things. And to see that this is the only moment of being able to experience it. And it's fresh and it's new and it never happened before. The Dalai Lama actually said, there are only 2 days in a year that nothing can be done. One is called yesterday and the other is called tomorrow. And he said, so today is the right day to love, believe, do, and mostly live. 2 days in a year that you cannot do anything. But what he's saying is that if you want to do something yesterday and you want to do something tomorrow, do it now. Do it now. Because yesterday and tomorrow are conceptual. So let's enter this new year with Dogen's great saying, great wish. May each and every body, whether staying still or standing up, have 10,000 blessings. Thank you.
Take heed, do not squander